Tell me, let me guess, you from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good.
Financial returns. Are you putting the money back into to your company? Are you investing it right back into your business, or are you donating it or spending it? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, exactly. You got those four. You got the four things. Like you get a 10% return on a piece of real estate you've sold or whatever, or you flipped a house and you made $20,000. Do you go on vacation the next week, or do you, or take a carve out and take a simple vacation and put 18 of it back to work?
Or do you do nothing with?
Or do nothing with it and put in your checking? So. And I was thinking about that this morning too, like a Dave Ramsey type. He teaches about having 6 months salary, back in, savings and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, and I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, it's like there's got to be a balance there. You're putting, say you make $50,000 a year, you're putting $25,000 just sitting there basically doing nothing.
Zero.
I'd at least put it in something has some accelerating.
Something.
You know what I mean?
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there, like it just doesn't do any good.
No.
And money's got to turn over. That's part of the economy. I read a lot about that this weekend. Just money's got to turn for the economy to be healthy.
That's right.
And so money's got to turn for your economic health to be healthy. You know what I mean? Like
for your own personal.
For your own personal. You're not, And so I had an old boss, at Georgia Pacific. He retired at I think 50.
And retired.
And so I'd asked him.
Not like FedEx retired and you go do something else.
Yeah, no. He retired. He was in San Diego, which is a pretty expensive place to retire to or from. And I just always remembered him telling me he always pushed hard, got his raises, additional responsibility, that human capital piece.
Yep.
And every time that happened, he would only incrementally change his lifestyle. Like this year might just be a little nicer vacation versus going from a 2,000 square foot house to a 5,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
He rewarded himself, but conservatively.
Yes. To me, that's financial education 101. I mean, I think that's where we get, that's the term, keeping up with the Joneses and that kind of stuff. Like,
sure.
What do you do with that money? Do you try to incrementally, or do you go for the gusto?
Blowing it up.
You think of The Millionaire Next Door. I don't know if you ever read that book. I'll have to give it to you. It's in our library.
Really?
Yeah. I'll get it to you this afternoon.
Okay.
Report back. I'm just kidding. But
no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
It just talks about, a typical millionaire is the one that you would not ever know as a millionaire.
Yeah,
drives an F-150, has a simple ranch house. Look at Warren Buffett's house. I mean, it's so funny. I saw a picture somebody posted on Facebook of him and Gates together, hugging at some event, and like terrible shirts and old belts, and they don't care.
None at all.
And they're billionaire, like
many times over.
And so I think when we get caught up in trying to have that persona or look or keeping up with the Joneses, and again, it goes back to what we originally talked about, like, incrementally is great.
Yeah.
I think
you start making bad decisions if you start trying to keep up with somebody else. You're not worried about your own household. You start making decisions that could affect you down the road over something that is completely and totally irrelevant.
Yes.
It means nothing to try to keep up with somebody else. So when we talk about those financial returns and what you're doing with this money, it's important to recognize a few, two very important aspects of this. And some rivers flow and some rivers dry up.
Yeah.
Okay. So some revenue streams and some rivers flow. I think you have to take advantage of them. I'm going to give you a few examples. Yeah. When I got into real estate in 2001, in 2002, new construction was the big thing. Big.
Huge, yeah.
Huge. I mean, as a matter of fact, a builder paid for me to get my real estate license. I mean, so I was in with the builders. I loved it. I thought it was a great thing. I was like, new construction, and this is something I can sink my teeth into. And it was great. And it was great. We were taking orders. I wasn't even really selling anything.
Right.
Taking orders, writing up contracts. So I took advantage of it. But what I didn't do, to me, is learn to forecast the river drying up. I think I sat in the model for too long, for about a year too long, when the market began to crash in 2006, right?
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be, when some rivers flow, I hate to use a gambling term, but like if you got a blackjack table and it's just hitting everything, you got to, bet more. Well, if you're finding good deals on houses and you're finding a good revenue stream, maybe double down on trying to get some of those and recognize it.
Right.
But you also at the same time, you got to recognize when those rivers dry up. And I'm guilty of that. I think I stayed in new construction for too long. BPOs that I've done are kind of the same thing.
Well, I mean, I think you've diversified. That's part of keeping the river flowing is
more canoes in the river.
Right. I mean, like, and again, we kind of talk about both sides of our mouth. We talk about, Gary Keller's, one thing, getting really, but we never say don't do two things. We just say get really good at one before we go to the second. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of this whole concept of just don't let yourself dry up. Keep the river flowing, keep that money going, finding ways to invest and keep investing. And so
keep that thing flowing. And if it does dry up, which I think everything that goes up must come down.
Sure.
So you're going to have a stopping point or a slowdown point in any investing in any market. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that you can get to where you can forecast it, because you need to start looking at some of the tell signs of a market slowing down or an investment of any kind that's slowing down, really. And your decisions are critical.
Yep.
So it's important to get to what? Get opinions from
friends, network, peers, seminars, bankers, whoever who your network is, that financial planners, get as many opinions. And I think that's where it helps form that whole passive versus active, lend versus own mentality. Which path you're going down by, which one fits your personality,
right?
Some of the stuff, and I hope that this helps just get people over the hump too of trying some new things,
sure,
and not just just getting stuck in that rut of just doing the same old each day, that they've always done. So
a lot of investors say, all right, so now we've gone down the path of, we figured out if we're a passive or active investor. We're recognizing when rivers are flowing with investments and deals, and when they're drying up. We've talked about making your decisions are critical, getting opinions from your mentor. So now you've got this money coming in. What are you going to do with it again? Now you got to figure out what to do with it again.
Right.
Because this is repeating, yeah. I mean, once you made the decision initially to get off the hump, well, now you've created more money, so now it's coming in again. You got to figure out, what you're going to do with it again. There's a quote we talked about before the break from Emmett Smith. Read that quote. I want you to read it. This is good.
Yeah, I think Douglas sent this to us earlier this week, and I said I'm putting this in my treasure chest.
Yeah.
But, he asked Jerry Jones, he said he asked a ton of people about financial advice. Football players are notorious for, in basketball and all the sports, taking in a bunch of money
and spending
it and losing it and all that kind of stuff. And, Jerry Jones just told him, for his financial advice was have a big front door and a small back door. Take in as much as you can and spend as little as you can.
Yeah, I love that.
I thought that was awesome. Just a good analogy to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Keep your front door. And again, that's what we're talking about. Passive, active streams of income and, returns. Get as many of those as you can. Get that door as wide as you can to get that money coming in. But don't let it go out the back door. Tighten that belt and just understand, because people just so want instant gratification these days.
Well, and athletes are the worst because they're young.
Yeah, coming out of school and then boom, they got millions.
Come from an economy or a background that has money.
Right.
So it's very hard. Athletes are kind of some of the worst, but
well, they've never been financial advice and how to manage, and people are pulling from
horror stories.
Oh yeah, sad.
Antoine Walker comes to mind. Played for the Boston Celtics. Made $120-something million flat broke.
Flat broke. 120 million.
Made 120-something million flat broke. He is now.
Wow.
Articles and books about it. I mean, of course, he's selling a story. He's got to make money. I mean, but he is flat. Played for Boston with Paul Pierce, won a title, the whole bit.
Wow.
So I mean, those are some examples that are out there. But I love that quote though. Jerry Jones, of all people, owns a $4 billion team. It's just one of his assets, and
keep big front door,
tiny back door.
Yeah, be interesting to see how he spends money day to day, considering how you think how flashy Dallas.
Yeah, how he is.
But he probably knows. He's doing it for marketing and for.
Well, and coming from a guy that's got $6-7 billion is a little bit different than coming from
that's true.
Joe Blow from down the street. But I like this quote. Even, it stands for us even. Same thing.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, let me guess. You from the town that I love.